Welcome, weary travelers of the dusk. I'm the Weaver of Whispers, here to spin a thread of stories to ease you into slumber. I know this video is your lantern for the night, so before we wander further, tap a like and join my quiet company with a subscription. Where are you tonight, and what time hums in your corner of the world? Sink into your pillows, breathe deep, and let the journey begin. The ember glow of Raven's Tor. High in the Pennine Hills of northern England, Raven's Tor rises like a somber sentinel over the windswept dales of Derbyshire. Its craggy summit, crowned with a circle of weathered stones, is a place of whispered dread, where the air carries the faint tang of smoke, even on clear days. Locals in the village of Edale speak of a fire that burns without fuel, seen only by those who linger too long at dusk. Tales tell of shepherds who glimpsed flames atop the Tor, only to find cold stone, and of hikers who felt an oppressive heat that left no mark. To outsiders, Raven's Tor is a rugged landmark. To those who know its lore, it is a place where a forgotten tragedy smolders still. In the autumn of 2021, Sarah Bennett, a 27-year-old photographer from Sheffield, trekked to Raven's Tor to capture its stark beauty for a local art exhibition. A self-described skeptic with a passion for moody landscapes, Sarah brushed off the village's warnings as quaint folklore, eager to shoot the stone circle against the setting sun. She arrived in the late afternoon, her camera bag slung over her shoulder, the moorland air crisp and tinged with heather. The Tor loomed above, its stones etched with faint, spiraling patterns she assumed were natural weathering. As she set up her tripod, the wind carried a distant crackle, like twigs snapping underfoot. As the sun dipped below the hills, casting long shadows, Sarah noticed a faint glow pulsing at the center of the stone circle, like embers catching in a breeze. Thinking it was a trick of the light, she adjusted her camera, but the glow intensified, accompanied by a low, rhythmic thrum, as if the earth itself were breathing. Curious but wary, she approached, her boots crunching on gravel. The air grew warm, unnaturally so, and the crackle sharpened into the roar of a fire, though no flames were visible. Her camera's viewfinder flickered, showing a haze of orange where the glow should be, and a faint smell of charred wood filled her lungs. At the circle's edge, Sarah froze. The glow erupted into a spectral blaze, flames licking the stones without consuming them, illuminating a scene within the circle. Shadowy figures, clad in coarse 17th century garb, huddled around a pyre. A woman stood at the center, her hands bound, her face contorted in silent agony as the flames seemed to engulf her. The figures watched, their expressions a mix of fear and resolve, their lips moving in unison, chanting words Sarah couldn't hear. She snapped a photo, the flash blinding, and the vision vanished. The flames, the figures, the pyre, all gone, leaving only cold stones and a lingering heat on her skin. Trembling, Sarah fled down the Tor, the thrum fading behind her. In Edale, she sought out the village historian, an elderly woman named Edith, at the local library. Over tea, Edith shared a grim tale. In 1665, during the Great Plague, a healer named Marjorie was accused of witchcraft by panicked villagers. Fearing her remedies spread the disease, they burned her atop Raven's Tor, her cries silenced by the flames. The village buried the act, but the Tor, locals claimed, kept Marjorie's final moments alive, its fire flaring for those who tread too close. Edith warned that seeing the pyre meant bearing its pain, a burden Sarah now carried. Back in Sheffield, Sarah developed her photos, her hands shaking. One image, taken at the circle, showed a faint ring of flames and a woman's silhouette, though her camera had captured only stones moments before. She withdrew from the exhibition, unable to face the Tor's image. The crackle of fire haunted her dreams, and she swore she felt its heat on quiet nights. Some say Raven's Tor holds Marjorie's agony, its flames a testament to her unjust death. Others, like Sarah, wonder if the Tor is a wound in time, where a single night's horror burns eternal, waiting for eyes to bear its witness. The Lost Locket of Sorrow's Beck. Tucked away in the rolling hills of County Antrim, Northern Ireland, Sorrow's Beck is a narrow stream that winds through a secluded glen, its banks lined with ancient hawthorn trees and crumbling dry stone walls. The beck is a place of quiet unease, its waters said to carry the echoes of a child's cry, heard only when the moon is hidden. Locals in the nearby village of Glenarm whisper of a locket lost in the stream, its gleam drawing wanderers to the water's edge, only to leave them with a weight they cannot shake. To passers-by, Sorrow's Beck is a serene brook. To those who linger, it is a place where a mother's grief ripples through time. In the summer of 2023, Fiona Kelly, a 31-year-old librarian from Belfast, visited Sorrow's Beck to escape the bustle of city life. A reserved woman with a fondness for local history, Fiona was intrigued by the glen's folklore, but saw it as charming myth, not reality. On a warm June afternoon, she arrived with a picnic basket, a book on Irish legends, and a small journal to jot down thoughts. The beck sparkled under the sun, its shallow waters gurgling over smooth pebbles, and the hawthorns bloomed with creamy blossoms. Settling on a flat stone by the stream, Fiona began reading, the gentle ripple of the water soothing her nerves. As the afternoon waned, a glint in the beck caught Fiona's eye, a flash of silver beneath the surface, like a coin or jewel. Thinking it was a lost trinket, she leaned closer, dipping her hand into the icy water. Her fingers brushed something smooth and metallic, but as she grasped it, a sharp, childlike wail pierced the air, high and desperate. Startled, Fiona yanked her hand back, the object slipping away. The wail grew louder, joined by a woman's anguished sob, both sounds emanating from the stream itself. Her heart pounding, Fiona scanned the glen, seeing no one, but the air turned heavy, laden with a sorrow that pressed against her chest. Drawn by an inexplicable urge, Fiona waded into the beck, the cold biting her ankles. The glint reappeared, and this time she retrieved it, a small heart-shaped locket, its surface engraved with a Celtic knot, tarnished, but intact. As she held it, the wail intensified, and the water around her seemed to shimmer, revealing a fleeting vision. A young girl in a 19th century dress, clutching the locket, her face streaked with tears, while a woman in a shawl knelt beside her, reaching out in vain. The girl's lips moved, forming the word "Mama." Before the scene dissolved, the beck returning to its tranquil flow. Fiona stumbled to the bank, the locket clutched in her trembling hand, the cries fading, but their weight lingering in her heart. Shaken, Fiona sought answers in Glenarm, finding an old seamstress, Bridget, who knew the beck's lore. Over a flickering hearth, Bridget recounted a tragedy from 1847 during the Great Famine. A widow named Saoirse, starving and desperate, sent her daughter, Nia, to a wealthy landowner for aid, giving her a locket as a token of their bond. Nia never returned, lost to fever or worse, and Saoirse, consumed by guilt, drowned herself in the beck, searching for her child. The locket, Bridget said, was a beacon, drawing those who touched it into Niamh's final plea, a moment of loss frozen in the stream's current. Fiona returned to Belfast, the locket locked in a drawer, but its presence unsettled her. She photographed it for her journal, and one image, taken by the beck, showed a faint outline of a girl's hand reaching from the water, though no such figure was visible at the time. Fiona donated the locket to a local museum, unable to bear its sorrow, but she felt Niamh's cry in quiet moments. Some say Sorrow's Beck holds the grief of Saoirse and Nia, its waters replaying their parting for those who find the locket. Others, like Fiona, wonder if the stream is a mirror of lost love, reflecting a moment that binds the living to the dead. The Phantom Blade of Thornwick Hollow. Deep in the Yorkshire Dales of northern England, Thornwick Hollow is a secluded valley where twisted oaks and jagged limestone cliffs guard a forgotten battlefield. The hollow is a place of eerie stillness, its air heavy with the memory of blood and steel. Locals in the nearby village of Grassington whisper of a spectral clash that echoes through the mist, the clash of swords heard when fog blankets the hollow. Tales speak of wanderers who glimpsed a fleeting duel beneath the oaks, only to find no trace of combatants. To ramblers, Thornwick Hollow is a rugged beauty spot. To those who know its past, it is a place where honor and betrayal clash eternal. In the autumn of 2022, Oliver Grant, a 39-year-old park ranger from Leeds, was assigned to survey Thornwick Hollow for trail maintenance. A stoic man with a love for the outdoors and a disdain for ghost stories, Oliver saw the local legends as fanciful tales spun to scare hikers. On a foggy October morning, he arrived with a clipboard, a GPS device, and a thermos of coffee. The hollow shrouded in a thick mist that muffled his footsteps. The oaks loomed like specters, their branches clawing at the sky, and the limestone cliffs glistened with dew. As he marked a trail, a faint metallic clink, like steel striking steel, broke the silence. Assuming it was a loose rock or a hiker's gear, Oliver scanned the hollow, seeing only fog and trees. The clink grew sharper, joined by a low grunt of effort, as if two men were locked in combat. His curiosity piqued. He followed the sound toward a clearing beneath the largest oak, where the mist swirled unnaturally, forming eddies that seemed to pulse with intent. The air grew taut, and a sharp, cold gust carried the scent of iron and sweat. Oliver's GPS flickered, its screen glitching, and the clinking became a furious clash, punctuated by a cry of rage. He gripped his clipboard, heart racing, as the fog parted to reveal a glint of metal. A sword, lying half buried in the earth, its blade etched with intricate runes. Compelled to touch it, Oliver reached for the sword, but as his fingers grazed the hilt, the clearing erupted in motion. Two figures materialized from the mist, clad in 18th century garb, one in a tattered red coat, the other in a dark cloak, their swords locked in a deadly dance. The red-coated man, his face scarred and furious, parried a blow from his cloaked opponent, whose eyes burned with betrayal. Their blades sparked, and the ground beneath Oliver trembled, as if the hollow itself were reliving their fury. The cloaked man staggered, clutching his chest, and his gaze met Oliver's, a silent accusation that froze him in place. With a final clash, the figures vanished, the sword dissolved into mist, and the hollow fell silent, the fog lifting to reveal an empty clearing. Shaken, Oliver stumbled back to Grassington, seeking answers at the village inn. There, an old blacksmith, Thomas, shared a tale of 1745, during the Jacobite Rising. Two brothers, Alistair and Duncan, swore loyalty to opposing sides, one to the crown, one to the Stuarts. Their feud culminated in a duel in Thornwick Hollow, where Alistair, the elder, struck down Duncan in a fit of rage, only to die of his own wounds days later. The brothers' swords were buried with them, but the hollow, Thomas said, replayed their betrayal for those who disturbed its peace, the blade a conduit for their unending strife. Oliver returned to Leeds, his survey unfinished, the clash of swords echoing in his mind. He reviewed his GPS data, finding a single anomaly: a brief video clip recorded unintentionally, showing a faint blur of two figures beneath the oak, though he'd seen no one when it was captured. He avoided Thornwick Hollow thereafter, but the weight of that glance lingered. Some say the hollow traps the brothers' fury, their duel a wound that bleeds through the mist. Others, like Oliver, wonder if the valley is a stage where time replays its darkest oaths, waiting for hands to touch the blade that binds them. The storm's call of Kilmary Point. I've never been one for ghost stories, but Kilmary Point, a jagged outcrop on the west coast of the Isle of Mull, Scotland, changed that. The point is a lonely place, where cliffs drop into the Atlantic, and sea spray clings to the air like a shroud. Locals in Tobermory talk of a storm that never dies, its winds howling the name of a sailor lost to the deep. They say if you stand too long at the point's edge, you'll hear his voice, begging for rescue. I thought it was just island folklore, the kind spun to keep kids from the cliffs. That was before I went there myself. In the winter of 2023, I, Rachel Harper, a 35-year-old freelance writer from Glasgow, came to Mull for a travel piece on its hidden gems. I'm a city girl, more at home with coffee shops than cliffs, but the promise of a quiet retreat lured me to Kilmary Point. I arrived on a gray January morning, my notebook tucked in my coat, a camera slung around my neck, and a flask of tea to ward off the chill. The point was as wild as I'd heard, waves crashing against black rocks, gulls screaming overhead, and a lone standing stone etched with faded Celtic knots, marking the cliff's edge. I scribbled notes about the view, dismissing the locals' tales as poetic nonsense. As noon crept closer, the sky darkened, and a wind kicked up, sharp enough to sting my cheeks. I was about to head back when I heard it. A low, keening wail, not the wind but something human, rising from the sea below. I froze, my pen hovering over my notebook. "Hello?" I called, my voice swallowed by the gale. The wail came again, clearer now, a man's voice, hoarse and desperate. "Help me." My stomach twisted. I edged toward the cliff, peering down at the churning waves, but saw nothing. No boat, no swimmer, just foam and rock. Thinking it was my imagination, I turned away, but the wind roared, and the wail became a plea. "Don't leave me." My heart hammered. I fumbled for my camera, snapping a photo of the sea, hoping to capture something, anything, to explain the voice. That's when the air changed, growing heavy, like a storm about to break. The standing stone hummed, a vibration I felt in my bones, and the wind whipped into a frenzy, carrying the scent of salt and something fouler, like rotting seaweed. I stumbled back, but the world blurred, and for a moment, I wasn't on the cliff anymore. I saw him, a man in a tattered oilskin, clinging to a splintered mast, his face gaunt, his eyes wide with terror as waves swallowed him. He reached out, his lips forming my name, Rachel, though I'd never seen him before. The vision shattered, and I was back on the point, gasping, the stone silent, the wind calm. I ran to my car, my hands shaking as I drove to Tobermory. At a harborside cafe, I spilled my story to an old fisherman, Angus, whose weathered face grew grim. He told me of 1879, when a fishing boat, the Island Dhu, sank off Kilmary Point in a brutal storm. The captain, Eamon, was the only survivor, washed ashore, but broken by guilt for failing his crew. He returned to the point daily, calling for his lost men, until one night he vanished, presumed drowned in his grief. Angus said Eamon's spirit lingers, his storm summoning those who stand at the point, seeking aid he can never give. Back in Glasgow, I uploaded my photos, dreading what I'd find. One image, taken at the cliff's edge, showed a faint, translucent figure in the waves, his arm outstretched, though the sea was empty when I clicked the shutter. I deleted it, unable to look at his face. I haven't returned to Mull, but Eamon's voice echoes in my quiet moments, a plea I can't answer. Some say Kilmary Point traps his torment, its storms replaying his final call. I wonder if it's more, a crack in time where his loss reaches out, searching for someone to pull him from the deep. And so, travelers of the dusk, the last thread of our tale unravels into the night. The whispers fade, weaving themselves into the fabric of your dreams. Rest now, cradled by the silence, as the lantern dims and the world softens. Sleep deeply, my friends, until our paths cross again in another story. Good night.